downside to this is I only have a couple slides. So if you're tired of looking at slides and cat pictures and animated GIFs, I'm not going to give you that. My name is Jessica Schneider. I work for Irish Titan. I've been there for 2 years. Irish Titan is a web agency here in the Twin Cities area. We build Drupal sites, we build Magento sites, we help with other e-commerce platforms, and we also build custom things that you could need for your business online. I've been working with Drupal for 5 years. I've been front-end development for 7, and I do more than just code. I run, I'm a triathlete, I take my motorcycle out. I have a snowmobile that I didn't get to use last year because it didn't snow. I got high hopes for this year. So pretty much I'm going to start with, what are Drupal modules? All a Drupal module is, it's code that's going to extend base Drupal core. It's going to add in extra features. It's going to give you that extra functionality that you're looking for, that your clients require, all that good stuff. So now that we know what a module is, how do we go find them? How do we install it? How do we make it do what it's supposed to? So I have a site set up, and it's pretty simple. I'm logged in as an administrator, so I'm just going to jump over here to the modules. We have this very simple install new module. Now I've worked in certain situations where I do not have this. The server setup has turned it off. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to install a module. You can do it this way, which all it is you go onto Drupal.org, you copy your link, you dump it in, you hit install. Or you can upload it. And it puts the file where it needs to, it unzips it, it's great, it takes 30 seconds. Now the other way to do it, if you don't have access to this screen for whatever reason, so we go into a different view and we get into our folder structure. Sites, all, modules. These are all the modules I currently have installed. And so pretty much it's just extracting your file that you've downloaded from Drupal.org and throwing it in here. I have 2 modules that we're going to do, Google Analytics and Metatag. I'm going to dump them in, refresh the page. And here we can see Google Analytics is now showing up. It's all it takes to install it. Once it's there, we want to enable it and save the configuration. This is telling Drupal, hey, go run your function to go look for all the modules and pick this one up. Because it's not going to pick it up if you just dump the files in. You have to run that. The other thing you want to know is how to uninstall a module. Do not go into your folder view and just delete it. I've done that before. I have broken sites before that required me to rebuild and start over. Do not just delete the file. What you want to do, so I have this copyright module installed. You want to uncheck it, save it, pretty simple. But then we have this uninstall tab. We want to go up here and we want to actually uninstall it. There are modules out there that are actually running some code. So if your module created a new table in the database or threw in some extra stuff, running the uninstall will remove that from your system. So it's very important. Once you've done that, then you're clear to go in and delete it. You want to do it that way because, like I said, I've done it where I just delete the folder because I forgot to go through those steps, and terrible, awful things have happened. So that's how you install a module, that's how you remove a module. What about selecting a module? Like, how do you know this module is a good one, should be installed? You don't know the developer who wrote it. You're not going to sit there and look at the code and make sure it's up to par. How do you decide these things? So I have pulled up a module on Drupal.org. That is my #1 go-to place. It is my personal belief to not install a module unless it's on Drupal.org. Now there are situations where I could be in a bind and I just don't want to write my own module and I could take something off GitHub. Use it at your own risk. To get modules on Drupal.org, there's actually an approval process and thorough testing that they go through. And just knowing that makes me feel better about taking modules from Drupal.org. Of course, I always read the description, make sure it's going to do what I need it to do, or at least does it sound like it's going to do what I need it to do. I also look at the releases it has. Now, this one I wouldn't necessarily install. There is a beta version, which isn't the worst thing in the world. If it only had a dev version, I would look for other options first. I have installed modules on websites that are dev version, but like I said, it was I don't have time to write a module from scratch, and I need something, so I'm going to install it on a test site and make sure it's okay before it even heads to production. Other things I consider are the date. When was the last time it received an update? If it's 2011, I'm going to assume that module's not getting updated and there's potentially security holes. I also look at, Drupal gives you this handy piece of information right here of how many times has it been installed, how many times has it been downloaded. That kind of tells you how popular the module is, how much traffic is it getting. So I look at that number and I'm looking for a large number. And then of course, we have the issue queue, and I'll poke around in there. How long do issues sit open before there's a reply to it till it's fixed? All of that. So I take all of this information and I make the call. Do I feel like this module is supported enough to put on a production website? So that's how I go about deciding. I have phone up here. I don't know if I'd necessarily install this one. But here's telephone. And the fact that telephone is going into Drupal 8, that makes me feel really good inside. And it's going to be in Drupal 8, so I can easily upgrade this site if I need to. Granted, they only have an alpha release, but it's had some recent activity. It's well, really not that recent, actually. But it looks promising. So I'd probably install this one over the phone. The Drupal 8 thing is the big seller right now for me. If it's going into Drupal 8 Core, I feel good about it. Granted, it's probably been a little bit since there's been work on it, but I'm making the assumption they're busy with Drupal 8. Maybe I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. So that's kind of the basic module stuff. So now we're going to get into the good stuff. I am going to go over the list, the big list, not the honorable mentions. There are a ton of modules out there that are great. The list that you see are modules that I've seen on 90% of the sites I've worked on at Irish Titan in the last 2 years and at previous jobs I've had. If I come across a site that doesn't have something on this list, it kind of makes me scratch my head and I'm like, well, how are they doing this? So now we're going to actually dive in and play with some of these modules. All right, so we've installed Drupal. What do we do first? Well, Drupal is a content management system. You're not going to necessarily expect the person who's owning this site to know code. So what do you want to give them? You want to give them a Wysiwyg editor. Something where they can type stuff in, make it bold, put headings in, images, all that great stuff. Drupal 7 does not come with one of these built in, so you have to add it. Let's see here. So this is pretty much what you see without your Wysiwyg editor. They get this. Ew. So there's more than one way to do this, which is the great thing about Drupal. There is a CK editor module. I personally don't use that one. That's just a decision I made. I know other agencies in the area use CK module. Instead, I use the Wysiwyg module, which means I install a CK library, I install IMCE, and the IMCE Wysiwyg bridge. So there's 3 modules I use to get the editor put in there. The Wysiwyg gives me the text formatting. The IMCE actually will allow you, your clients to upload images into the Wysiwyg. And then the bridge you need for IMCE and Wysiwyg just makes it all work together. Recently, I have been enlightened on a module called Media, and I'm leaning towards using Media over the IMCE because then I can take 2 modules out, but I haven't used it a lot yet. So, jury's still out on that. So once you get your 3 modules installed, you're going to want to go to, not this one, Wysiwyg profiles. This is what you first get. We have installation instructions. This is why I really like the Wysiwyg module, is I can easily swap out the editor I want to use. I had one case where the CK editor I had installed, for whatever reason, was not playing nice with IE. So I swapped it out very quickly for a different editor, and it solved the problem. Now the fun part about this is when you use Wysiwyg, you're using a download of CK editor, not the CK editor module, but an actual copy of it. You need to make sure you're using version 3.6, which is not the current version. Otherwise you're going to get angry because it's not going to work. I have a copy of 3.6 on my computer, so I don't have to constantly go out and find an old version of it. I know CK editor is coming in Drupal 8, so you don't have to go through any of this, and I'm making the assumption it's going to be a more recent version. So pretty much, I already have it downloaded, and what I did to download it is in my folder structure, I'm in Sites, All. We want to go into Libraries, and I have a folder called CK Editor. So I went to the CK Editor website, downloaded it, grabbed it from my computer, wherever it came from, and I threw it in there. Once I threw it in there, my site picked it up, and it's saying, yep, green light, we're good to go, you got the right version. Now what I do is I always take the full HTML, because to get your heading tags, your paragraph tags, your bold tags, all those tags, even if they want to throw an iframe in there, you want the full HTML so it'll work. You just select your editor, we save it, and then we go and edit it. And you get all of these options. Most of the time, basic setup, I just leave it to the default. Buttons and plugins, this one takes a while for me to click. But you have full control over what you're giving your clients to play with or to try and break your site with. So you just kind of make those decisions. What does the client need? So if I turn a few of these on, and we want to make sure, I always turn on the source option. That's for me, because when they throw something in and it's not right, I can easily get to the source of the problem. I turn on image, I turn on link. This IMCE down here at the bottom will show up with your IMCE module. If you don't have this option, you don't have the module installed. So that should be good. And then the rest of these, I don't touch that one. I do apply source formatting so that when I click it to the source view and I go in and I change something for someone, I don't have to redo the formatting again when they break it again or something new occurs. So I always turn that on. And then the CSS, I never use the theme CSS because I don't have the time to theme it. I always do the editor default CSS. I just want what comes with it. Done, easy, perfect. You hit save. Now, if I change my filtered to full HTML, I now have a Wysiwyg. A lot of steps, but it just makes it easier for the client, makes it easier for you, all that good stuff. With the IMCE, you'll get this. If this button doesn't show, that's a pretty good indicator that you don't have the IMC installed. And then it just gives you a nice upload and all that good stuff. So now, we've set it up so that our clients have a nice, easy way to enter content, make it look right, all that good stuff. When users are creating different pages, I fully expect my clients to go create pages on their own. If I did my job right, they can manage their site. They can have as many pages as they want. They can have as few pages as they want. As they're creating pages, I'm not going to expect them, and let's do one more. So I just created this page, and one thing we want to look at is the URL. That URL is ugly, that is not SEO friendly, nobody wants it. Clients know the term SEO, they don't know what it means, but they know it, and someone will ask about that. There's a module we need to install to get us something that's more friendly. And it's called Path Otto. And I'm assuming I don't have it turned on. Path Otto. Install it, save it. Now if we view, edit. There's my editor. And now I should have, here we go, URL path settings. When I first go and create a content, this will now be checked, and what it's doing is it's going to pull the title and make a friendly SEO URL for you. If I click save. Now I do have this revision stuff up here. That's another module I have turned on right now. Just ignore it. Oh, what are we doing? Right here. Drupal Camp. That's more SEO friendly. That's what we want to see. Another great thing about Path Otto is you can set up different content types. So you can have team members, you can have a basic page, you can have types of ice cream, all that good stuff. What Path Otto will also allow you to do where did it go? Here we go. URL aliases. It will let you set up patterns. So you can see I have a team member content type, and I have it set to build a URL that's going to be team/the node title. You can do taxonomy terms if they're set on your content type. You can do dates. You can do the user that created it. There's a lot of stuff you can put in there. Kind of looking over the replacement patterns. And anything in this list is stuff you can use to build your URL. This is great because now you don't have to expect your clients to build a URL that's SEO friendly. It's consistent, it's on the fly, clients never notice it. All right. Let's go take a look at, oh yes. All right, we're going to do menu attributes. So when we're looking at our menu, main menu, list links, edit. This is the default menu screen. This is great. But what if I put a link in here that goes to Facebook, Twitter, Google, someplace other than that? I want it to open in a new window. Or what if I want an icon to show up next to my menu link? I want to add a class or an ID or some extra stuff. This screen will not let you do that easily. You can code some stuff in. I don't know about you. I like to point, click, install, and move on with my life. So, the menu attributes module we'll install that one. So now if we go look at our menu options, we now have titles, IDs, names, classes. Our targets can be set. This is very handy. I use this on every site. I don't necessarily fill in these fields every time, but they're there and available. And it's to the point where, granted, some less technical clients may still struggle with this, but now they have the ability to open a page in a new window. They might abuse it, not fully understand it, but they have the capability. So when they call you and say, it doesn't open a new window, you can just walk them through it, or even you can just log in and do it in 30 seconds instead of doing it the hard way and programming it in. Now we're going to Google Analytics. I don't know about you, but Google Analytics goes on every site I build. There are other analytics out there that are great. However, I haven't used any of them in a few years. Just Google Analytics. So you saw me install the module. And when you install a module, there's a pretty good chance you're going to go to the configuration to find the settings for it. So that's usually, I install a module, I go in configuration, see what shows up there. That's what I do. If it's not there, then I go back to the module page and I start looking for information as to where I need to go to make this work. README files are also very handy on giving you clues as to what's changed and how do you manage it. Google Analytics. You just throw in the ID and you can hit save. Now if you need more control than that, you have options to change it. The best part about this is there's permissions. I can give my clients access to this page. I don't always do it. It depends on the client, but I can give them access to this. So when they go, well, I need this or that or the other thing, I'm like, here you go, go nuts. Let me know if you have questions. I will help you through it. So that's that one. All right, let's actually go look at some fun stuff. I have, as I pointed out, team members. Now, almost every site I build that has team members, they want a page that kind of gives you an overview of all the team members. That would be this page. When you click on an image or a title, you actually go to the individual information. That's great. To get this page set up, you want to use what's called views. I'm sure many of you have heard of views. It's very popular. Drupal 7 didn't actually take off in popularity till this module was compatible with it. I know that because I tried to use Drupal 7 before views came out, not knowing any better. So how do we build this? When we go to add content, we have team members. We can fill in all the information. And it just automatically adds it to this page. That's the great thing about views, is it helps the site be more dynamic, and you're not relying on your clients or yourself to keep things consistent. If they take off a team member, you don't want to have them come back to this page and have to take it off here too. So we're going to go into structure, views, and we're going to actually create a new view. Before I get too far into views, I'm going to show you something. When I click description, a text box should display. Now, in this case, it did not. And that's because my version of jQuery is not the right version. How do you fix that? You go install a module called jQuery Update. jQuery Update. So as you can see, I have jQuery 1.10 set up on the site. Views doesn't like 1.10. So what I do is this administrative pages, I set that to 1.7. I have a coworker who will set it to 1.8. I don't recommend anything over 1.8 for the administrative side. We save it. Now if we go back, views, add new view, description, ta-da! Our text box shows up. Now that's a pretty minor indicator. If you get to this point and you click description and that box doesn't show up, just go turn on jQuery, because when you get further into views, it's going to be harder to get it to do what it should at that point. So just make sure it's set up and you're good to rock and roll. I like to put in descriptions. I used to work at a place that was a little weird, and they always had this philosophy of, what happens if you get hit by a beer truck tomorrow? Well, good luck figuring out what I did at that point. So with that mindset, which is a little morbid, I try to document everything I'm doing. So in the case of getting hit by a beer truck, family emergency, flat tire, whatever, people know what I'm doing. So we have this option, show content files. We can do a lot of things with views. Views is pretty awesome. You can do complicated things with it. You can do simple things with it. I'm just going to run through a simple, quick demonstration here. We're going to keep it to content. And we're going to pull team members. And we'll create a page. And a lot of these settings you can set once you get into the views administrative screen. So you can change your mind. Continue and edit. So now we're in here, and here are my team members. This is what it's automatically pulling in for me. I don't want this. It's pulling in the teaser view of the content. So now I can go alter the teaser view, or I can change what I'm looking for. I want to pull in fields. I want to be very particular about what information I'm pulling in from my team members. They automatically put in title. They always want at least one value in your fields. You just click on it and you have your different options. You can link it to the original piece of content. What that means is it's going to link the title to the actual node that's been created. You can customize the HTML around the field. You can customize the HTML around the label. You can remove default classes, which is sometimes handy. Drupal likes to put a lot of junk in the code. If you uncheck that, it's going to take some of that out. You can set different elements. And you can enter custom classes. This is very handy, so if you're using a class already on your site and you need to use it here, you just pop it in and it works. This didn't originally come with views. I used to have to do it the hard way. We have...
How come on my version here, when I click on customize field HTML, it doesn't show the other option you have, the HTML element?
I'm not sure. I just updated my version of Drupal yesterday.
I have the 7.
Do you have jQuery update installed? The jQuery update module
I
installed?
do, I have that.
Do you have it set to 1.7? That is something I would expect if jQuery is not set to 1.7 or 1.8. That is something I would expect
Okay.
to happen. So that'd be something I would check
I
first.
checked that later, but about the same, about the view, I just asked the other guy, the previous guy who did the demo, asking about the editing inside the view. He said you could, but I couldn't find the setting for that.
So,
Can you show it?
so I kind of heard you talking to him, and I'll show you what I think he was talking about.
Okay.
So hold on, give me a second, and I'll get there. We have this no results behavior, which is handy. So if you have like a picture image and you just want to say no picture available, if there's not a picture available, you just type it in. You can use, what am I looking for? This replacement patterns. This is going to give you a list of all the fields you're pulling in. So if you need, I'm trying to think of an example. If you need to add a link around some content, you can pull in the link field and you can manipulate what it's doing for you. We won't get too much into that, but this information is handy to have. If you have an image field you're trying to display, and if there's not an image, you want to display a different field of information, you can actually use this replacement patterns in the no results. So that it gives you a lot of flexibility as far as what you want to do. This more is just an administrative title for your needs to help you figure out what you're looking at within the admin view. To add fields, you just click Add. And to answer your question, what I think the previous presenter was talking about is this content edit link. So you can just check that one to add. You can filter based on what you're looking for. I usually leave this to all, and I just start typing in what I'm looking for. If you don't know what you're looking for, you can scroll through everything, but my eyes get cross-eyed about a quarter of the way down. If you know you're looking for fields on your team members, you can actually type in team members, and it's going to pull in all that stuff for you. So if you know that there's a content type and you need to get the fields and you don't remember what you named them, you can just type in the name of the node and it'll start pulling stuff in for you. We'll do job title. So I just selected two things. So you can go through, select a bunch of things you want, or you can do one at a time. 9 times out of 10, I turn off the label. I don't need that 90% of the time. I don't necessarily have to display this. I can have this in there for information, and I can do something else with it if I need to. What is this? This is my edit link. So I can make my edit link say anything I want. And then, of course, I can go through and set the styles, the no results, all that good stuff. We'll just leave it alone. And that's going to automatically take me to the next one. Turn it off. This formatter is available on certain fields. If you want the default, if you're doing image field, you'll get different options, image styles you can set on there, all that good stuff. I either leave it to default or plain text 90% of the time. So we're going to apply all. Now here's what's kind of nice, is it's giving you a mini preview of what you're doing. If you don't like the order, you just click the little drop down, rearrange, and it's nice drag and drop. One thing I want to point out, this unformatted list, Most of the time I leave it to unformatted lists, and I just let my CSS do the work of getting it formatted. There are certain times where I do want a grid or a table. If you use a grid, the code is a table. So use it with caution if you're doing responsive. Because I picked grid, I can select my number of columns. There's classes you can add. You can remove it adds the striping classes that you can apply striping to. It doesn't actually stripe code it for you. Well, it might, depending on your theme. But it gives you those classes. So now we can see we've got a 2-column grid. I changed the order to add that click here to edit information to the bottom. So it's all great. This filter criteria is also handy. You can see that they, by default, put in, is it published? Yes. So if your client wants to temporarily take some information off, all they have to do is unpublish it, and it will no longer show up in your list, which is very handy. You can set your content type to whatever you need it to be. There's a lot of information in here. Another thing that I use frequently is if I have a taxonomy term and I only want content types that are in this taxonomy term, this is where I'm going to add that. And then my sort criteria, by default it does the post date. That works really well for blog posts, news articles, that type of stuff. It doesn't work so great for team members, because what does the post date have to do with a team member? So for that, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to add something else. For sort, I can sort it by title, I can sort it by phone number, I can sort it by a ton of things. What I normally do for something like team members, I have a weight module installed. And what that does is it gives me access to a weight option in views. So if I apply that, ascending or descending, apply, and it's going to reorder based on this weight. Now, give me a second and I'll show you a little bit more as to what the weight is doing. So that's our orders. This is a page, so we have a path setting. We can change the URL to this page. We can add it to the menu from here, or we can go into the menu and just enter the URL. We can throw a header and a footer onto this page to give you a little more intro text or closing text. There's another module you can install, so if you don't want to give this page to your clients, which I never do, I do not let them in here because they do not know what they are doing. There is a module called Views UI Basic, I think. I'd have to look it up. But there's a module you can install that'll still give them access to the header, footer, and a few other pieces of information so that they can edit that without going to this page. I strongly believe in that. I've had clients that have had access to this page. It's been ugly. I just take it away at that point. We have this advanced thing. I'm not getting into any of this, but this is, in that advanced column is where you can do really, really cool things with views. Based on URLs, you can do custom theming templates, you can add a CSS class to your whole theme. Just a ton of awesome things you can do here. But let's say this is good, this is what we want. Don't forget to scroll to the top and hit save. I wish that button was in a different spot because sometimes I forget. But we're going to hit save, and I'm going to go hit the view page. And ta-da, we have a grid. Now this click here to edit information, with the way I have this simple setup, anyone who comes to my site can see that link, but you have to be logged in to actually get anywhere. I'm sure there are settings you can set on that link so it only displays to logged in users. I'm not going to get into that, but we can click the title and we get there. So that's kind of a real simple setup of views. I had, while I'm talking about views, I showed you that weight setting that I was sorting by. If I go find content and I look for all my team members, you'll see this weight value, which is very handy. Clients seem to understand this fairly well, where you can just control who's first, who's last, all that stuff. It's looking at that number value. I used to do this where I would bake a weight value into the content type. I would add that field, and then I'd sort by that field. And then I found this module, and I'm like, hey, that takes a minute less to set up, so I'm going to do it this way. And it gives them a nice view where they can see all of that.
If two people have the same weight, does it go alphabetical or can you decide?
You can set up more than one sort, so you can have it sort by the weight, and then you're like, okay, if two of them have the same number, I want it sorted by job title, or I want it sorted by name. You can throw as many things in there as you want. So it'll just kind of pick one by default. I'm not sure what it would pick if two of them had the same weight and I didn't have a secondary sort on there. But you can control that. What do we got next? All right. Last one. I don't know about you, but 99% of the sites I work on have a form. Now, what's great is clients don't always know what they want on a form, and I'm not going to go change it every time for them. So we have this module called WebForm. When you install it, it creates a new content type for you. Actually, let's go look at it this way. Structure, content types, WebForm. It gives you your machine name, your description. You can rename the title field to something that makes more sense for the client. You've got menu settings. You've got all the settings on there of a normal content type. You can add a body field. You can add other fields to it. All that good stuff. Let's see here. Okay. When you add a new web form, you get this. I'm very creative with titles, as you can tell. We'll hit save. Now we have this view. This view, I love this, because now a client can type in anything they want. Now, this might be a little complicated for some clients. That's where I normally tell them, just pay attention to text area and text field. Those are the two most that they will use on a web form. I don't know if it's possible to take any of these out. I don't bother with it. I just kind of give the client some direction. And if they screw it up, they're not going to screw it up that bad. It can be fixed. So do a text area. You can mark it required here, or you can do it on the next screen. You can set default values. You can set a description. So if there needs to be a little helper sentence underneath that field so that people know what to enter, you can set that. This is actually fairly recent, the placeholder. So you can type something in there and it'll display within the field until you click on it. That's really nice. It wasn't always there. You can control how the label displays. I don't mess with that a whole lot, but it's good stuff. You can add classes to it. Click Save. Now we have an anything field. If it's a contact form and they want an email address, I highly, highly encourage using the email field because it'll give you some extra functionality over a text field. I'm going to set it up. We're just going to go through, click the defaults, save. So you get the point. You can add your fields. You can drag and drop the order. You can make them required or not required. All that great stuff. Conditionals, I'm not really going to get into, but if you see those forms where if you have a select list, and depending on what you select, will adjust the new fields you can see, That is conditionals. That would be handled in this screen. Emails. Whenever I set up a form for a client, they're like, I want a form. And I'm like, great. Who should get an email? And they kind of sit there and scratch their head. I'm like, all right, there's more to a web form than just the pretty boxes. You can enter in an email address that should get this. We can have multiple entries in here, so then more than one email can receive the message that's going on. The reason why I strongly suggested using email field for that email address is we have this component value down here. So if I'm a user and I go fill that form out and I'm supposed to receive a copy, you want to use this component value as email address because you don't know my email address. It's something I have to type in. So if we add it, I want it set to that. 9 times out of 10, I set this to a custom because this form submission from gets a little old in your inbox. So I usually set it to something custom. You can select components. I've never really used that, and I don't have any available, so I'm not sure exactly which one of those I would need to select to get that one to work. The from address. Who did this email come from? I set that to email address. I want to know that it came from Jane Doe email address so that when I hit reply, it goes to Jane Doe's email address. If you leave it to the default and you hit reply to that message, it goes to the default email, and the person who set this site up for you doesn't want your reply. The person that sent it to you wants the reply. So I always change that. The from name. Here we go. Oh. The from name you can set to a text field. I don't know why it's not working here. But you can set that to, like, if you have a name or a last name. I usually select component so that I know it came from Jane Doe. You can set them to all come from the same place too. Here's a template. I always take out this one. Most of the time, very rarely, do I actually have users logging into a site and sending an email on a form. So if users are not logged in and they're sending you a message, this is going to say submitted by anonymous user. Now I'm sure there's a way to change it. I just take it out because that information is in the form that the user filled in. I take it out, and I take this out sometimes. Depends on my type of client. What this is it's putting in a URL into the bottom of the form that was submitted, and it's saying, hey, you can log into Drupal and see the message from there. I usually take that out because it confuses some of my clients. They're like, oh, I didn't know I had to log in. Well, that's incorrect. You don't have to log in. So I just take it out because they have the message in their inbox. This included email values. You can turn off certain values. I don't know why you would, because it's on the form. You clearly want that information. I don't know why you would take some of this off. But whatever, you can do it. And you save your email. And you can add as many of these as you want. Form settings. All right, we have a form. We know who's getting the message. What does the user see when they hit submit? I guarantee you, clients don't think that far ahead. You have to ask them. Because like I said, they're concerned about pretty boxes. This is a message you can put in here. If you have a custom page that has a prettier, cooler thing on it, you can link to that page to display your success message. This no redirect reload current page, I sometimes use that if I'm looking for more of an Ajax style type of thing. The submissions, I never mess with. I just leave it as is. You can control who can fill out your form. I very rarely touch that. I want any user to fill out my forms. These defaults I don't mess with. This advanced settings. This is kind of cool. Let's say you have a cool page and you need your web form to display on it. You can set it to display as a block, and you just throw the block on that page. This is pretty awesome. You can change what the submit button says. I love this. It's so easy. I just make it say whatever my heart desires. And unfortunately, I'm not that creative. So that's what it gets to say. I'll do this. I almost forgot my message. Okay, so now if we go view it, I have a very ugly, oh, that's why I couldn't select it. It's a text area. But anyways, you can see my placeholder. I put in the email address. If I want to edit it, I just click the WebForm tab, and it takes me right there. If we want to, let me get a page URL here. Edit. Node 4. If we go look at structure, blocks, because I turned it on as a block, it's actually in here. I'm going to click configure. So the confirmation message, I always select the second option because otherwise, if your form's further down on the page in a region, if your success message will either display at the top of the page or it's going to display on a different page. I don't want that. I want to display where the block is. So I always select this second option. First sidebar, we'll throw it there. We'll put it on node 4. We're going to hit save. So here we have it placed somewhere else on a page. I do know that there is a form API that you can use. That's fine and dandy if you have a complicated form that needs to do more advanced things. That's definitely a way to go. However, the issue with that is, to my knowledge, your clients can no longer manage that form. I like WebForm because they can go in and they can change the label of their fields. They can change what fields they're asking for. They can change who's getting it. They have much more control over this module. So yeah, those are the 7 modules that I see on most every site I touch. If I come across a site that doesn't have these, I really look at it closely and ask myself if that site is meeting the needs of the client. And I'll go ahead and install some extra ones to make their lives easier. Because I'm a developer, I don't want to edit content. I don't want to upload images. I just want to make it work so someone else can do that stuff. And here's my last slide. You can build your own module. If you're out there looking and you can't find a module that does what you want it to, I would try rewording it in Google because it probably does exist. But if it doesn't, you can build your own module. And there's some pretty good resources out there. Build your own module. You can look at getting it contributed, so it's on Drupal.org. I have built a module. I have not gotten it on Drupal.org yet. I am still working on that process. So, but that is it's pretty much the main 7 modules. Any questions?
Could you go back to that slide where you summarized the modules you just went over?
This one?
Yeah.
Yep. The honorable mentions, those kind of came from our IT director, where he's dealing more with the back-end side, whereas I'm dealing with what makes the site easy for clients to use. So those are modules that he uses. The SMT authentication, I use Mandrill, is it mandrillapp.com to set up an SMTP. That will actually get emails to send off of your website. And it's a free account up to so many emails. So if you have a giant client, it could cost you some money. If you've got a medium to small client, It works great. Devel helps you debug your site. It can actually render site. That's the team members I had on my site with the funny images. I use Devel to set that up because, like I said, I'm not going to upload images. 301 redirects, that's just for SEO, get things directing where they want to. And Drush. Drush is, I don't know how many of you have heard of it. I don't use it. I would love to use it, but my server's not set up for it. It's a command line tool to install modules, install Drupal. You can, I don't even know what else you can do with it. You can do a ton of things with it. It's really cool. It's using the command line. Instead of clicking through 6 admin pages, you can just run a few commands to get things to go. And it's way cooler than what I even know to talk about, so it's about all I've got. And the memcache, our IT director installs that one. I don't even touch that one, I'm sorry, but that was one he recommended. So I've got site speed on there. If you're having site speed issues, it's definitely something to check into and see if that would assist a little bit.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, is there a rule of thumb? I know this is a big question, I guess, in a way, but is there a rule of thumb of like where you're getting to too many modules in a Drupal site?
Personally, I feel like there is, but there's not an exact number.
Yeah, I would think some modules are so light that
Right.
it doesn't matter.
When I'm setting up a site and I'm selecting modules to install, I'm really trying to make sure that, if there's 2 modules that are doing kind of the same thing, well, then let's kick one out.
Yeah.
The more modules you have to update. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You don't want a site with, 50 modules because then you're going to update it every other day. Actually, I want to edit. I was going to show you guys that. I forgot. Under reports, available updates, this is a list of my version of Drupal Core. This is awesome. It goes out to Drupal.org and it tells you when your stuff's out of date, like my jQuery update is out of date. And it will let you download directly from here so you can go and update it. And it has I'm using this theme. So it has all this information. It's really handy. It's really cool. So to answer your question, there isn't really a golden number. It comes down to how big your site is, what you need your site to do, that type of stuff. I have seen a site, I actually got my hands on a site that had 2 modules installed, which doesn't fit my 7 that I just covered. And it got to the point where I had to install the Wysiwyg and the IMCE because I was tired of uploading images for the client. And it's like, all right, you're going to go do it. So you definitely want more than 2, is my recommendation. But you don't necessarily want 50. If you guys have a minute, I'll show you how to update modules. So this jQuery update, it needs an update. Where am I? Okay, need to be in modules. Need a new window. Downloads. I have jQuery update. I have that one already. So what you want to do is we're going to come back to our list here. Now this part can scare some people. You want to delete that folder. Now, if you're afraid of deleting it, make a copy of it on your desktop. But you need it out of this directory. I'm going to paste in the new version. And then what I need to do is on my site, to let Drupal know that I have updated it, I need to go to update.php. Takes me to this screen. It's giving you all those nice warnings of back up your database, back up your code. Things can break. Always do this on a test site first. That is from experience. Because if you update and you now have a white screen of death on production, people start to yell. Hit continue. Now this page, if there's any changes to like the database, it'll have a list of those changes. Depending on the module, it'll have a list of other types of changes. This one didn't. So you just go back to your administrative pages or the front page if you're concerned it broke something. Reports, available updates, and jQuery update is now updated. One thing to note about that update.php, you want to be logged in as the super user, also known as user 1, to run that page. It's a very secure page. Not everybody gets to do that. I can set people up as administrators, and they can't access that page. So, a very secure page. Yeah. Yep.
Are modules able to enforce any sort of dependencies on other modules?
Yes, yes. When you go to install views, it's going to make you install ctools. So if I installed views and I click install, click save, it's going to say, wait a second, you don't have ctools. So you have to go out, you have to download it. Now if you click views and ctools is sitting there, you just haven't turned it on, and you click save, it'll actually say, hey, we need to enable ctools, is that okay with you? And you click next, and then it'll install everything that it needs.
Is there any sort of versioning management with that? Like if ctools gets upgraded and it would maybe break compatibility with views? Is there any sort of concept of that?
Not that I've seen, and I'm not 100% sure.
If the module maintainer says that they need a specific version, or that has to be a specific version newer than whatever, then it would. It doesn't work. Okay.
So,
It doesn't happen very often.
anything else? No?
So WordPress, you can update a plugin
Yep.
right within the administrative backend, and you don't even have to go out and do FTP or any of that below. Is Drupal 8 going to have that?
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that one.
Drupal 7 doesn't have it.
Correct. Drupal 7
Because
doesn't.
I do Drupal 6 and I have to always do that. And I'm comfortable with doing that, but WordPress is pretty keen when I can
Great.
just do it right there. Go buttons and grabs.
I will have clients ask me like, hey, I see that there's a module update. Can I go and update it?
Yeah.
And I kind of shake and quiver a little bit. And I'm like, why don't I just do that? Because sometimes I have had sites break doing updates to the point where, dear God, I hope there's a database backup and a code backup.
So I believe Drupal 7 does have the ability to do that. However, Drupal 7 doesn't try to be backwards compatible, so it's not able to ensure that by applying an update, it's not going to break something. Drupal 8 does try to be backwards compatible, more like WordPress is. So even though you can technically update it through the interface of Drupal 7, I don't know any production shops that suggest their clients do it that way.
Would that be on this tab? I don't have anything in here anymore.
Yeah, it would be.
No.
Yeah, you can
I skip over this tab all the time. I forget it exists. But maybe it works. It's definitely something to try out. When updating modules, I always make sure to delete the old one, because if there's any old files in there that aren't being used anymore, you just want to clean house. Sometimes it can cause conflicts. So you always want to make sure that that old old folder is getting completely deleted. All right, I think that's all I had for you.
Okay, one more question.
All right,
I want to go back to Wysiwyg versus CKN,
okay.
because I went to install one of those and just looked at the dates, and I got the impression that Wysiwyg is like abandoned. You know, the last update date was I forget what it was, but it looked like, okay, CK edit, that was updated yesterday or last week, you know. Wysiwyg was a couple years ago.
I have searched for the answer of which one's better, and I still get both sides of the table. So for me, it came down to a personal choice. I like the Wysiwyg one because I can easily swap out the editor that's being used, CK editor. The tiny MCE is one I've swapped it with. So I can quickly swap out an editor if I need to. So that's my biggest plus for using Wysiwyg. I know some people use the CK module. I know a few years ago it wasn't as popular, but I feel like it's gained in popularity. But I don't feel like there's a wrong way to do it.
Mhm. Yeah, well, you know, I was just looking at those dates. Do you know why? I mean, is there conversation on the module page about Wysiwyg? Is it still active?
You know, I haven't looked at it in a while. That's just kind of a route I had decided on a while ago. Maybe it is time I go back and reconsider my pick for that. But that's, I know when I first started using Drupal a few years ago, like that was, from my understanding, that was the way to go. Maybe my method's outdated and I need to update it to the CK. Kind of like with the IMCE for the image uploads, where I just recently came across the media module that gives you an option to like an image library, which is similar to WordPress, and I know a lot of people like. So I'm also in the process of reevaluating if I want to continue with IMCE or if I want to switch over to this media module. That's kind of, Drupal keeps you on your toes that way, where one day it's going to be you want to go this way, you want to do that, and then eventually something new and better comes along. So I'm still the Wysiwyg way. Maybe CK module is the way to go. I know CK editor is coming in Drupal 8. Now, if that's from the CK module path, I don't know that one for sure.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for coming.